The silence in the office is louder than any scream. I am standing in the middle of the floor, my hands trembling as I grip the edges of a cardboard box. Two security guards, men I used to greet with a smile every morning, are standing over me like I'm a common thief. Their shadows stretch across my desk, cold and oppressive. I can feel the eyes of 40 coworkers burning into my back, some with pity, others with the twisted excitement of watching a high flyer fall. Through the floor-to-ceiling glass of the main boardroom, Julian Vane is watching me. He is leaning back in his leather chair, swirling a glass of amber scotch. He looks like a king watching an execution. This is the man I helped build this company from the ground up for 7 years. I worked 80-hour weeks, skipped my own birthdays, and sacrificed my health to make him a billionaire. "Time to go, Clara," the taller guard grunts. He reaches out to nudge the box toward me. My heart is thumping against my ribs like a trapped bird. I look at the framed photo of my father on my desk, the man whose cancer treatments depend entirely on the stock options I was supposed to receive today. Julian knows this. He planned this. "Julian!" I shout, my voice cracking under the weight of the betrayal. "You know what today is. You can't do this." He doesn't even flinch. He just raises his glass in a mock toast and looks away. The guards grab my arms, and suddenly I'm being marched toward the elevator. The humiliation is a physical weight, a hot sludge in my veins. As the elevator doors slide shut, I see Julian laughing at something on his phone. He thinks he just won. He thinks I'm leaving with nothing, but he has no idea what I'm taking with me in my head. The humid city air hits me like a slap as the guards escort me out of the lobby. They watch until I'm 10 feet away from the building before turning back inside. I stand there on the sidewalk, clutching my box of pens and notebooks, feeling like the world has just ended. Pedestrians in expensive suits brush past me, oblivious to the fact that I was the director of logistics for one of the biggest firms in the state just 10 minutes ago. My phone pings in my pocket. I pull it out, hoping for a just kidding text or an apology. Instead, it's an automated alert from the company's HR portal. My access has been revoked. My health insurance is terminated. My vested stock options, the $800,000 I earned through 7 years of blood and sweat, have been voided due to gross misconduct. I sink onto a public bench, the box resting on my knees. I think about my father, sitting in his hospital bed, waiting for the news that we can finally afford the specialized treatment. I had promised him this morning that today was the day our lives would change. I wasn't lying. Our lives did change, just not the way I planned. Julian's face flashes in my mind, that smirk. He didn't fire me because I did a bad job. He fired me because my payout was too high, and he wanted to keep the money for himself. He framed me to save his bottom line. The sadness in my chest begins to shift. It's no longer a heavy, wet weight. It's becoming a dry, hot spark. I look back up at the glass tower. Julian thinks he's the smartest man in the room because he owns the building. He forgot that I'm the one who built the foundation he's standing on. My name is Clara Vance. For most people, I was the quiet girl in the back of the room who made sure the global supply chain didn't collapse. While Julian was on magazine covers talking about vision and disruption, I was the one tracking shipments, negotiating with port authorities, and writing the code that automated our entire delivery system. I was the architect of his success, and I was happy to stay in the shadows as long as my work was respected. I grew up in a house where your word was your bond. My father was a carpenter who worked until his hands bled to put me through school. He taught me that if you build something with integrity, it will last. Julian, on the other hand, was born into wealth and treated integrity like a suggestion. I should have seen the red flags years ago, but I wanted to believe in the mission. I'm 32 years old, and I've spent my entire adult life making a monster look like a genius. I know every secret of Vane Logistics. I know where the money goes, I know who gets the kickbacks, and I know exactly how Julian likes to hide his tracks. He thinks by taking my laptop and my badge, he's taken my power, but he made one huge mistake. He thinks I'm just an employee. He doesn't realize that when you spend 7 years building a digital empire, you don't just leave the keys behind. You leave a part of your soul in the code, and I know exactly how to call it back. I'm going home to my father, and then I'm going to work. Not for Vane, but for myself. The quiet girl is done being quiet. Finding a new job should have been easy for someone with my resume. I had calls from recruiters every week when I was at Vane. But 48 hours after being fired, the world goes cold. I spend all Monday making calls, but nobody picks up. By Tuesday, I finally get through to an old colleague at a rival firm. "Clara, I can't talk to you," he whispers, his voice tense. "Julian sent out a global memo. He's telling everyone you were caught selling proprietary trade secrets to offshore competitors. He's threatening to sue any company that hires you for tortious interference." My heart drops. He isn't just taking my money, he's taking my reputation. He's making me radioactive. If I can't work in logistics, I can't pay my father's medicine. I can't even pay my mortgage. Julian is trying to starve me into submission. He wants me to come crawling back, begging for a severance package that would require me to sign a lifetime silence agreement. "Julian is lying, Mike," I say, my voice trembling with rage. "You know me. I'd never do that." "It doesn't matter what I know," Mike sighs. "He's got the money to tie anyone up in court for years. No one wants the headache." "I'm sorry, Clara." He hangs up. I stare at the wall of my small apartment. Julian is playing a game of chess, and he thinks he's already put me in checkmate, but he's playing on a board I designed. I open my personal laptop, the one I used to use for late-night coding projects. I don't need a recruiter. I don't need a boss. If I'm a thief in Julian's eyes, maybe it's time I actually looked at what's hidden in the shadows of the company he claims I stole from. I'm sitting at my kitchen table, surrounded by empty coffee mugs. I'm trying to figure out how to fight a billionaire with a bank account that is currently sitting at $3,000. Then a memory hits me. It was 3 years ago, during the great server crash of year 4. The IT department was useless, so I stayed up for 48 hours writing a script to stabilize the data flow. I called it the Watchdog. It was a tiny piece of background automation designed to monitor file deletions and server wipes. It was meant to prevent accidental data loss, but I had set it up to send a metadata log to a private encrypted cloud folder every Sunday night. It was an emergency backup, a just-in-case measure that I completely forgot about because the system never crashed again. My fingers fly across the keys. I haven't logged into that private cloud in a year. My heart hammers as I type in the 24-character password. Access denied. My heart hammers. Did Julian find it? Did he delete my backup? I try again, correcting a typo. Access granted. A list of folders populates the screen. They are labeled by date, going back years. These aren't the files themselves. I'm not a thief, but they are the logs. They show exactly what was deleted, when it was deleted, and whose digital signature was on the delete button. I click on the folder from the night I was fired. My eyes widen. There were over 4,000 deletions between 2 a.m. and 4 a.m. Julian didn't just fire me. He spent the entire night scrubbing the evidence of the very projects he's now accusing me of stealing. He's erasing the proof that he authorized my work. I lean back, a cold smile spreading across my face. He thinks the evidence is gone. He doesn't know the watchdog was still barking in the dark. I realized that if I can't get a job, I have to create one. I spend the next week filing paperwork for a boutique consulting firm. I call it Apex Logistics. It's a tiny operation, just me and my spare bedroom, but I have something Julian doesn't, the ability to actually do the work. Julian is a salesman. I'm the engine. I reach out to a small shipping client I used to help back in the day, a family-owned company that Julian was planning to drop because their profit margins weren't high enough. I offer them a deal. I'll cut their shipping costs by 20% in exchange for a modest monthly retainer. They agree instantly. Working for myself feels different. There's no Julian hovering over me, no corporate jargon, no fake team-building exercises. It's just me and the data. I spend my days building a new, more efficient routing system for my client. I feel alive for the first time in months. I'm making enough to cover the basic bills and a portion of my dad's medication. But the peace is short-lived. I know Julian is watching. He has spies everywhere in this industry. He's going to see that I'm not broken, that I didn't crawl into a hole and disappear. And knowing Julian, he'll see my survival as an insult. I keep my Watchdog logs encrypted on 3 different drives. I know he's coming for me. I just didn't expect him to move so fast. One Tuesday afternoon, while I'm making tea, there's a sharp, rhythmic pounding on my front door. It doesn't sound like a friend. I open the door to find a man in a cheap polyester suit holding a thick blue folder. "Clara Vance?" he asks. I nod, and he thrusts the folder into my chest. "You've been served. Have a nice day." I walk back to my kitchen and drop the folder on the table. It's heavy. I open it and the words leap off the page like venomous snakes. Vane Logistics versus Clara Vance. Complaint for injunctive relief and damages. Julian is suing me for $2 million. He's claiming that Apex Logistics is built entirely on stolen trade secrets, the very algorithms I wrote myself. He's also claiming I violated a non-compete agreement. I scan the documents. There's a signature at the bottom of the non-compete. It looks like mine, but I know I never signed it. Julian was always too arrogant to care about paperwork when we started. He must have forged it or had someone in HR fix the files. $2 million. It might as well be $100 million. I don't have that kind of money. I look at the list of Julian's lawyers, a high-priced firm that charges more per hour than I make in a month. This is his real strategy. He doesn't need to win the case. He just needs to bleed me dry in legal fees until I have to shut down Apex and declare bankruptcy. He wants to take my house. He wants to take my dignity. I pick up the phone and call the only person I know who hates Julian as much as I do. Leo, a former corporate lawyer who quit the dark side to open a small practice. "Leo," I say, my voice steady despite the fear. "Julian just pulled the trigger. It's time to show him why you don't mess with an engineer." Leo meets me at a dusty diner the next morning. He looks through the lawsuit, his brow furrowed. "This is bad, Clara. Julian isn't playing around. He's filed for an emergency injunction to shut down Apex immediately. If the judge grants it, you're out of business by Friday." "I forged my signature on the non-compete, Leo." I pointed at the page. "And he's calling my own code trade secrets. I wrote those lines. They're in my brain." In the eyes of the law, if you wrote them while being paid by Vane, they belong to Vane. And the forgery is hard to prove without the original digital file. Julian claims the original was destroyed in a server migration, leaving only the scan. We look up as the diner door opens. Marcus, Julian's lead attorney, walks in. He's wearing a suit that costs more than my car and a smile that makes my skin crawl. He walks straight to our booth and slides a single piece of paper on the table. "A settlement offer," Marcus says smoothly. "Close Apex, sign a confession of theft, agreed to a 10-year ban from the logistics industry. In exchange, Julian will drop the $2 million claim." "A 10-year ban?" I scoff. "That's a death sentence for my career." "It's a mercy," Marcus counters, leaning in. "Julian is very angry, Clara. He feels betrayed. If you take this to court, he will make sure you never work as a cashier, let alone a director. Take the deal, move to another state, start over." He turns and walks out before I can respond. I look at Leo. The choice is clear: total surrender or total war. "We're going to court," I whisper. 3 weeks later, I'm sitting in a sterile conference room for my deposition. Julian is there, sitting at the end of the table. He's not supposed to be, but he wanted to watch me squirm. He's wearing a custom-made silk tie and looking at his watch like this is a minor inconvenience. Marcus spent 4 hours grilling me. "Isn't it true, Miss Vance, that you accessed the Vane servers the night you were fired?" "I was being escorted out," I say for the 10th time. "I didn't access anything." "Then how do you explain the missing files?" Marcus sneers. "Thousands of proprietary documents vanished the moment you left. We believe you wiped the server to cover your tracks after stealing the data." I look at Julian. He's smirking. He's the one who wiped the files, and now he's testifying under oath through his lawyers that I did it. It's a perfect frame-up. If I can't prove I didn't delete the files, the judge will assume I stole them. During a break, I'm standing by the coffee machine when Julian walks up. "You look tired, Clara. Is your father doing okay? I heard he had to move to a cheaper facility. That's a shame. You could have saved him if you weren't so stubborn." I feel a surge of pure, white-hot hatred. It's so strong that my vision blurs. I want to scream, to hit him, to tell him I know about his offshore accounts. But I don't. I take a deep breath and force a tight, robotic smile. "I'm fine, Julian, just making sure I have everything ready for the judge." Julian chuckles. "You have nothing, Clara. I own the truth." He walks away, and I realize he's right. He owns the current truth, but he doesn't own the past. Back at home, I'm going through the Watchdog logs for the 1,000th time. I need a smoking gun. The logs show that files were deleted, but they don't show the content of the files. To a judge, a deletion log just looks like maintenance. I need proof of what he was hiding. I start looking at the timestamps again. 3:14 a.m. on the night of my firing. A specific file was deleted. log_ex8812.tmp. It's a temporary log file generated by the server's outbound mail gateway. My heart starts to race. Julian didn't just delete the emails, he tried to delete the record that the emails ever existed. But the Watchdog is an automation script. When it sees a .tmp file being deleted, it creates a shadow save of the last 100 kilobytes of data as a crash recovery measure. It's a standard feature I built in to prevent system corruption. I haven't checked the shadow save folder because it's hidden in a subdirectory of the system kernel. I navigate through the folders, system/kernel/recovery/shadow. There it is, a tiny 80 kilobyte file. I open it in a text editor. It's a mess of raw code and headers, but as I scroll down, I see familiar names. Julian Vane, Port Authority of Singapore, account 9921. It's not just one email, it's a fragment of a conversation. Julian wasn't accusing me of stealing secrets because he was worried about competition. He was accusing me because I was the only person with high-level clearance to eventually find out he was laundering money through shipping contracts. He had to get rid of me before I looked too closely at the Singapore routes. I have the what. Now I just need to figure out how to use it without Julian's lawyers getting it thrown out of court. "We can't just hand this to the police," Leo warns me as we look at the fragment. "Julian will claim you hacked the server to plant it. Since you're a disgruntled ex-employee with expert coding skills, a jury might actually believe you. We need to lure him into a position where he can't deny it." I spend the next month playing the part of the victim. I let Julian's lawyers think they are winning. I don't respond to their aggressive emails. I even let them think I'm considering their settlement offer. I want Julian to feel so confident that he becomes careless. I spend my nights at the hospital with my dad. He's thinner now, his voice a ghost of what it used to be. "Don't let them change you, Clara," he whispers one night, his hand shaking in mine. "Winning isn't worth it if you become like them." "I'm not becoming like him, Dad, I promise," kissing his forehead. "I'm just finishing what he started." I realize that Julian's greatest weakness is his arrogance. He thinks he's the only person in the world who understands how the game is played. He thinks I'm a worker bee who only follows instructions. He doesn't believe I'm capable of a long-term strategy. Every action I take from now on has to be calculated. I hire a private investigator, not to follow Julian, but to verify the Singapore bank account numbers I found in the shadow safe. If those accounts are real, Julian is a dead man walking. I just need to be the one to open the door for him. In a lawsuit, there's a process called discovery, where both sides have to hand over evidence. Leo files a very specific request: all server logs regarding the outbound mail gateway from the night of Clara Vance's termination. Marcus, Julian's lawyer, sends back a smug response. Those logs were lost during a routine system update on the night in question. No such records exist. This is exactly what I wanted. By saying this in a legal filing, Julian is officially on the record claiming the data is gone. He's lying to the court. Are you sure the Watchdog logs are enough? Leo asks. If he says the server was updated and the logs were lost, he can just say your Watchdog files are fake. The Watchdog logs contain a digital heartbeat. It's a unique cryptographic hash that is generated every second. It's linked to the server's hardware ID. It's impossible to forge. If I can get that drive in front of a court-appointed expert, Julian's routine update excuse will fall apart. I keep the drive in a safe deposit box. I don't even keep a copy at home. I'm becoming paranoid, checking my mirrors when I drive, changing my passwords every day. I know Julian is starting to get nervous. He's increased his settlement offer 3 times. He's offering me $500,000 now to just go away. But $500,000 isn't justice, it's a bribe. I send back a 1-sentence response to his latest offer. See you in court, Julian. I know that message will drive him insane. He hates not being in control. He's used to people having a price. By refusing his money, I'm telling him he has no power over me. And for a man like Julian, that's more terrifying than a lawsuit. The trial starts tomorrow. I'm sitting in my dark living room, the glow of my laptop the only light. I'm looking at a photo of the Vane logistics team from 5 years ago. We all looked so happy. Julian had his arm around my shoulder, calling me the future of the industry. I wonder if he was already planning his fraud back then, or if the greed just grew over time like a mold. I've prepared everything. The Watchdog logs are organized, the Singapore bank account verification is ready, the evidence of the forged non-compete is laid out. But I'm still nervous. This isn't a movie where the hero always wins. Julian has millions of dollars and a team of people whose only job is to destroy me. My phone vibrates. It's a text from an unknown number. It's not too late to take the money, Clara. Don't ruin your life over a grudge. I don't reply. I block the number. It's Julian trying to get into my head one last time. He wants me to think this is about a grudge. He wants to belittle my pursuit of justice by calling it petty. But this isn't about him. It's about my dad. It's about every person Julian has stepped on to build his tower. It's about the truth having a seat at the table. I close my laptop and head to bed. I don't sleep much, but when I do, I dream of the Watchdog. In my dream, it's a massive golden hound standing guard over a mountain of data, its eyes glowing with a steady, unbreakable light. It's waiting for me to give the command. Tomorrow, I'm letting it off the leash. The courthouse is a massive, intimidating building of white stone and echoing hallways. As I walk up the steps with Leo, a swarm of reporters tries to get a quote. Julian has made sure this trial is big news. He wants the industry to watch him crush a thief. Inside, the courtroom is cold and smells of old paper and floor wax. Julian is already there, sitting at the plaintiff's table. He looks like he's at a gala, dressed in a 3-piece suit, chatting animatedly with Marcus. He doesn't even look at me when I sit down at the defense table. I'm a non-entity to him. "You're ready?" Leo whispers. I nod, my heart pounding so hard I can feel it in my throat. I look at the judge's bench. Judge Holloway is a stern woman with a reputation for not suffering fools. That's good. Julian is a master at playing the fool when it suits him. The bailiff calls the court to order. Vane Logistics versus Clara Vance, Honorable Judge Holloway presiding. Julian stands up first. He looks at the judge with a perfect expression of wounded pride. "Your Honor," Marcus begins, his voice booming through the room. This is a simple case of a trusted employee who thought she was bigger than the company. When she was let go for performance issues, she decided to take the company's heart and soul with her. She stole the algorithms that represent 10 years of innovation, and then she tried to hide her tracks by sabotaging our servers. I listened to the lies, and for the first time, they don't hurt. They just sound pathetic. It's like watching a bad actor try to play a hero. I keep my eyes on my notepad, drawing a small, simple circle over and over again. I'm staying calm. I'm staying collected. I'm the engineer. I'm just waiting for my turn to present the math. I walk to the stand, my heels clicking on the hardwood floor. I take the oath, my voice clear and steady. I look at Julian. He's leaning back, whispering something to Marcus. Probably a joke about how I'm about to humiliate myself. Miss Vance, Leo begins, you've heard the testimony that you deleted thousands of files on the night of your termination. Did you do that? No, I say. I was being escorted out by security. I didn't have access to a terminal. But Julian Vane testified that the logs show the deletions happened under your credentials, Leo says. That's true, I say, because Julian Vane was the one using my credentials. He had my master password written in an emergency envelope in his desk. He waited until I was out of the building, and then he started the wipe. Marcus jumps up. Objection, speculation, defamation. There's no proof of this. Actually, there is, I say, looking directly at the judge. Your Honor, Julian's team claimed in their discovery filings that the server logs from that night were lost in a system update. They lied. The logs weren't lost. They were merely deleted. But I had an automated security script running, a script Julian didn't know existed. It captured every single deletion, every IP address, and every email header. The courtroom goes dead silent. Julian's smirk doesn't disappear, but it freezes. It looks like a mask that's starting to crack. I have the drive right here, I say, holding it up, and I'd like to play the recordings for the court. The judge allows us to plug the drive into the court's system. I guide the court technician through the folders. Go to the directory labeled Watchdog Live Logs, I say. The big screen at the front of the room fills with scrolling lines of code. It's boring at first, just system pings and routine checks. Then we hit the 3 a.m. timestamp. Stop there, I say. Look at the IP address associated with the deletion of the logistics framework files. The technician highlights a string of numbers. Now, I continue, compare that to the IP address of Julian Vane's private office terminal, which is listed in the company's own IT directory, Exhibit B. The numbers match perfectly. The room erupts in whispers. The deletions didn't happen from my desk. They happened from Julian's office while I was standing on the sidewalk waiting for a taxi. He wasn't protecting trade secrets. He was destroying evidence of his own involvement in the very projects he's suing me for. Marcus is on his feet, screaming about unauthorized hacking and tampered evidence. But I'm not done. I walk to the stand, my heels clicking on the hardwood floor. I take the oath, my voice clear and steady. I look at Julian. He's leaning back, whispering something to Marcus. Probably a joke about how I'm about to humiliate myself. Miss Vance, Leo begins, you've heard the testimony that you deleted thousands of files on the night of your termination. Did you do that? No, I say. I was being escorted out by security. I didn't have access to a terminal. But Julian Vane testified that the logs show the deletions happened under your credentials, Leo says. That's true, I say, because Julian Vane was the one using my credentials. He had my master password written in an emergency envelope in his desk. He waited until I was out of the building, and then he started the wipe. Marcus jumps up. Objection, speculation, defamation. There's no proof of this. Actually, there is, I say, looking directly at the judge. Your Honor, Julian's team claimed in their discovery filings that the server logs from that night were lost in a system update. They lied. The logs weren't lost. They were merely deleted. But I had an automated security script running, a script Julian didn't know existed. It captured every single deletion, every IP address, and every email header. The courtroom goes dead silent. Julian's smirk doesn't disappear, but it freezes. It looks like a mask that's starting to crack. I have the drive right here, I say, holding it up, and I'd like to play the recordings for the court. The judge allows us to plug the drive into the court's system. I guide the court technician through the folders. Go to the directory labeled Watchdog Live Logs, I say. The big screen at the front of the room fills with scrolling lines of code. It's boring at first, just system pings and routine checks. Then we hit the 3 a.m. timestamp. Stop there, I say. Look at the IP address associated with the deletion of the logistics framework files. The technician highlights a string of numbers. Now, I continue, compare that to the IP address of Julian Vane's private office terminal, which is listed in the company's own IT directory, Exhibit B. The numbers match perfectly. The room erupts in whispers. The deletions didn't happen from my desk. They happened from Julian's office while I was standing on the sidewalk waiting for a taxi. He wasn't protecting trade secrets. He was destroying evidence of his own involvement in the very projects he's suing me for. Marcus is on his feet, screaming about unauthorized hacking and tampered evidence. But I'm not done. Scroll down to the Shadow Save folder, I tell the technician. Let's look at what was inside the files Julian tried so hard to delete. A document appears on the screen. It's a series of emails between Julian and a contact in Singapore. The subject line, Project X Hidden Commission Split. In the email, Julian explicitly describes how he plans to fire me and blame the missing funds on her technical errors so he can keep the kickbacks for himself. The silence that follows is heavy. It's the sound of a man's empire collapsing in real time. Julian isn't smirking anymore. He's leaning forward, his face a terrifying shade of purple. He looks like he wants to jump over the table and strangle me. Marcus is frantically trying to whisper to him, but Julian pushes him away. There's one more thing, I say, my voice gaining strength. The non-compete agreement, the one Julian says I signed. I have the technician pull up the high-resolution scan of the document Julian submitted. If you zoom in on the signature, I say, you'll see a tiny repeating pattern in the ink. It's a digital artifact. This isn't a scan of a wet signature. It's a stamp from a PDF editor. Then I have them open the Watchdog's log of Julian's computer activity from the week after I was fired. There, in plain text, is the record of Julian opening a file called clara.signaturesample.png and merging it with noncompete.pdf. He forged my name to stop me from working. He lied about the theft to hide his fraud. And he sued me for $2 million to make sure I could never afford to find the truth. But I built the system, Julian. I knew where the bodies were buried because I'm the one who dug the holes for the foundation. Judge Holloway leans forward, her eyes fixed on Julian. Mr. Vane, sit down, she says, her voice like a whip. Julian was halfway out of his chair, his eyes wild. He sinks back down, looking suddenly small. The jury is no longer looking at him with sympathy. They are looking at him with disgust. I feel a wave of relief so powerful it makes me dizzy. For 7 years, I was the shadow. Now, the shadow is the only thing casting light. The trial doesn't end that day, but the energy has shifted completely. Julian's legal team is in full retreat. They try to claim the Watchdog logs are a violation of privacy laws, but the judge shakes her head. The defendant created this script as part of her job duties to protect company data. The fact that it caught the CEO committing fraud is not a privacy violation. It's a security success. By the next morning, the trade secrets lawsuit is falling apart. My lawyer, Leo, files a motion for a directed verdict. He argues that Julian has failed to provide any evidence of theft and that the defense has provided overwhelming evidence of perjury and fraud. But Julian has one more card to play. During the lunch break, Marcus approaches us in the hallway. He looks exhausted, his expensive suit rumpled. Julian wants to settle, he says. He'll drop the suit, he'll pay you $5 million, he'll sign a public statement retracting the misconduct charges. Just don't hand the rest of those drives to the district attorney. I look at Leo. $5 million. That would change everything. My father would have the best care in the world for the rest of his life. I could retire at 32. I could walk away and never think about Julian Vane again. No, I say. Marcus blinks. What? Clara, $5 million is more than you'd ever win in a countersuit. You'd be set for life. It's not about the money anymore, I say. He tried to destroy me. He lied to the court. He's stealing from the taxpayers with his Project X. If I take the money, I'm just helping him hide again. Tell Julian the price of my silence is not for sale. When we go back into the courtroom, Julian looks like he's aged 10 years. He's no longer the confident billionaire. He's a man who realizes he's trapped. He starts barking orders at his lawyers, his voice loud enough for the whole room to hear. Do something. Fix this. The judge calls for order, but Julian ignores her. He stands up and points a shaking finger at me. You think you're so smart. You're a thief. You hacked my private files. You stole my life. Mr. Vane, sit down or I will have you removed, Judge Holloway shouts. Julian doesn't sit down. He's spiraling. He begins to rant about how he built this city and how I'm nothing without him. It's a total mental breakdown in the middle of a public courtroom. The reporters are typing furiously. This is the viral moment, the titan of industry losing his mind because a worker bee outsmarted him. Finally, the bailiffs have to physically restrain him and lead him out of the room. As he's dragged past me, his eyes meet mine. There's no power in them anymore, only fear. He realized too late that you can buy lawyers, you can buy witnesses, and you can buy buildings, but you can't buy the truth when it's written in a language you don't understand. The judge turns to the jury and gives them instructions, but it's a formality. The trial is effectively over. I sit at my table, my hands folded, watching the empty chair where Julian sat. I should feel triumphant, but I just feel peaceful. The weight is gone. The architect has reclaimed the blueprint. Just as the judge is about to dismiss the jury for deliberations, a man in a dark suit enters the back of the courtroom. He walks up to the bench and hands a document to the bailiff. The judge reads it, her expression turning grave. "Wait," Marcus says, standing up. "What is this?" "This is an arrest warrant," Judge Holloway says, her voice echoing in the silent room. While this court was hearing testimony regarding civil damages, the FBI was reviewing the data fragments provided in the preliminary discovery. It seems Project X wasn't just a kickback scheme. It involved the illegal transport of restricted materials through international ports. I freeze. I knew Julian was greedy, but I didn't know he was dangerous. My Watchdog logs had uncovered something much bigger than a corporate grudge. By trying to sue me for trade secrets, Julian had forced those secrets into a public courtroom where the feds could see them. He literally sued himself into a federal prison cell. The civil trial is stayed pending the outcome of the criminal investigation, the judge announces. Ms. Vance, you are free to go. Mr. Vane is currently being taken into custody in the holding cell downstairs. I stand up, my legs feeling like jelly. Leo grabs my arm, a huge grin on his face. "Clara, you didn't just win a lawsuit, you took down a criminal syndicate." I look around the room. The reporters are scrambling to get to the elevators. The industry peers who shunned me are now looking at me with awe. I walk out of the courtroom, not as a defendant, but as the woman who broke the glass tower. A week later, I'm sitting in my father's hospital room. He's awake, and for the first time in months, he's eating a real meal. The news is playing on the small TV in the corner. Julian Vane's face is on the screen, but he's not smiling. He's wearing a bright orange jumpsuit, his head bowed as he's led into a federal courthouse. The anchor is talking about the Vane Logistics collapse. The company's stock has plummeted. The board of directors has fired Julian and is scrambling to avoid prosecution themselves. "You did it, Clara," my father says, his voice weak but proud. "You built something that lasted. You built the truth." "I just followed the logs, Dad," I say, squeezing his hand. Then my phone rings. It's the chairman of the board at Vane Logistics, the man who ignored my emails for months. "Clara," he says, his voice dripping with desperation, "we've finished our internal audit. It turns out you were right about everything. We'd like to offer you your job back, not as a director, as the CEO. We need someone the public trusts to save the company." I look at the TV. I look at my father. I think about the security guards who marched me out. I think about the $2 million lawsuit. I think about the forged signature. "No," I say, a calm smile spreading across my lips. "I'm not interested in saving your company, but if you're looking to sell the logistics software and the routing infrastructure, my firm, Apex Logistics, might be interested in buying the assets for pennies on the dollar. Have your people call Leo. I hang up before he can respond. The architect doesn't go back to the old building, she builds a new one. Julian's fall is spectacular and total. Because he used company funds to pay his personal legal fees and the Project X kickbacks, the government seizes all his assets, his mansion, his private jet, his collection of vintage cars, all gone. His wife leaves him. His friends in the industry act like they've never met him. He is eventually sentenced to 15 years in federal prison for wire fraud, money laundering, and perjury. During his sentencing, he tries to blame me one last time, calling me a digital terrorist. The judge just rolls her eyes and adds a year to his sentence for lack of remorse. I never visit him. I never send him a letter. I don't need to see him suffer to feel whole. The greatest punishment for a man like Julian isn't the prison cell. It's the fact that he is now a nobody. He has no glass office, no scotch, and no one to scream at. He is just a number in a system, a data point in a log he can't delete. The industry now uses the Vane case as a cautionary tale in business schools. They call it the Watchdog principle, the idea that no matter how much power you have, you can never outrun the data you create. Julian wanted to be a legend. He got his wish, but not the way he imagined. He became the man who lost everything because he forgot that the person who builds the system is the one who truly owns it. Apex Logistics is no longer a boutique firm in a spare bedroom. With the assets I bought from the Vane liquidation, we've grown into one of the most respected logistics companies in the country. But we do things differently. Every employee at Apex has vested stock options that can't be voided by a misconduct charge without a third-party audit. We have a transparency protocol where every financial transaction is logged on a blockchain that the entire board can see. And, most importantly, we don't have bosses like Julian. We have leaders who actually know how to do the work. My father is home now. He's in remission, spending his days in the garden he always wanted. We don't have to worry about the bills anymore, but I still drive my old car, and I still wear the same watch. The money's nice, but the peace is better. I'm standing in my new office, which is overlooking the city. It's not made of glass, it's made of warm wood and filled with books. My assistant walks in and tells me that a group of students from my old university want to interview me about the Watchdog. What should I tell them? She asks. I look out at the horizon, at the ships moving through the harbor, all tracked by the software I wrote. Tell them to always keep a backup, I say, not just of their data, but of their integrity, because one day they might have to walk into a room and hand someone the truth. I'm at a gala tonight. It's a different kind of event than the ones Julian used to throw. This is a fundraiser for cancer research, and I'm the keynote speaker. As I stand backstage, I look at my reflection in a small mirror. I don't see the quiet girl who is afraid of the spotlight anymore. I see a woman who knows exactly what she's worth. I walk onto the stage and the applause is warm and genuine. I don't talk about vision or disruption. I talk about the importance of the people who do the work. I talk about how the smallest script can take down the biggest giant if it's written with the truth. After the speech, a young woman approaches me. She's a junior engineer, her eyes wide with excitement. Ms. Vance, how did you stay so calm when they were suing you? Weren't you afraid he'd win? I think back to that day on the sidewalk, clutching my box of pens. I think about the fear and the humiliation. I look at her and smile. I wasn't afraid, I say, because I knew something he didn't. I knew that he was fighting a war with words, and I was fighting a war with math. And in the end, the math always adds up. I walk out of the venue and into the cool night air. My phone pings. It's a notification from the Apex server, a routine system check. It reads, all systems nominal, Watchdog active. I slip the phone into my pocket and walk toward my car. I am Clara Vance. I am an architect. I am a daughter. And I am finally truly free. The story of the trade secrets didn't end with a settlement or a secret. It ended with the truth, written in code, standing guard over my life. And that is a secret worth keeping.